Cześć Enrico, new day, new learning.
Oh, Maciej, I'm so curious. What do you have under your belt for me today?
I have something which probably you know a little because it's about destructuring in the JS world, but at the same time, I'm hoping to at least surprise you a little. Like I really want to go into details with this, show you in a very short amount of time, but at the same time, show you in details what you can do with modern JavaScript and how this will influence your work, everyday work. So first of all, why even should we use this? I want to mention that this is a part of JS ES standard from a while. It's not a super new thing. At the same time, I guess it's very handy. And for me, the first reason why you should even destructurize or know what is this is because these days it is really hard to understand modern code without it. It's everywhere. React has its pattern based on this and other libraries as well. And you will see this code here and there everywhere. And if you are not familiar with this, you will be just puzzled what's happening there. And for me, it's also a very nice thing just itself, because, you know, the JavaScript is mostly famous because of JSON. JSON is just JavaScript object. The way that the objects are constructed in JavaScript, they are so popular that they just, even if someone is not using JavaScript, the JSON standard is still popular everywhere. And for me, the structuring is another way to, because before we could easily create objects in JavaScript world, but it was kind of hard to work with them later, like to actually destructurizing them. And right now we can also do the second thing, which means that we can not only create objects easily, but also get stuff out of it in a very nice manner. So that's it. And the final thing to convince you, if you are not still convinced, is like very often when you are using some patterns, they are like, you know, something you can, you are start using them, you are just putting them on your neck, and then you are just using them more and more, and it's a little like, and then another one is like, and you feel like these patterns should be helpful, but actually they are not so helpful. You feel you don't have error anymore. And with destructuring, it's a little better because it's like, you know, it gives you the space. It's something you can use, but at the same time, you still, it's something very easy, something which only or mostly simplify your code. So let's jump into the code. I will show you what I have for you today. So first of all, this is like, I prepared something in TypeScript just to better explicit describe the type that we have here. It's a type banner with some ID title, image, which is like a nested object, and tiles. And tiles are the array of objects which contain, once more time, title and href. And here I prepared the real data, which are banners, and we have three different banners: the main banner, banner 1, and banner 2, and they have some data inside according to this pattern. So now let's assume that I want to get some banner. So first of all, if I will just get a main banner without even destructurizing anything, I can do this like this, right? Banners 0, okay. And I have now only this one banner inside, right? I just started Squawka to see our results, and let's see then console log main banner, and it's showing us, okay, so this is your object, right? And now let's say that I want to get a title from this object. So without the structuring, I would need to make something like const title. Maybe I will just also disable. Okay, so I could get just main banner and then title, right? And this is not super handy in a way because we need to repeat this object every time. Let's say that I want to make another property, like maybe image, and then I need to repeat everything more and more. So instead of this, I can use destructuring, which looks like this. I'm just using JSON object, let's say, on left, and then I can get whatever I want from my object. So now I can also log this. And as you can see, it's already a correct title. If I want to get more stuff from it, I can get it like this. And as you can see, I also have a nice auto completion here. So I see what's in my object. This one is not used. This is why it is red. I can create a let instead cons, whatever I want. But by doing this, I already have like many variables created out of this object, which I can use, which is nice. But what about the nested properties? So inside my image, I also have another stuff. As you can see, it's already a hint here. So I can, for example, go further and get only this one. So now I don't have this one, like the image thing doesn't exist, not defined, but I have the nested one because I made so. I also can have both if I would make it like this. Then image is also the option, right? Okay, now this is how I can destructuring objects, but I can also destructuring arrays. So instead of saying banners element 0, I can use parentheses, and then I'm getting the first element from my array. I can get another one, like the first banner, and this is how I'm getting this. I put any name I want on it, and it's just like the first object, which means that with index 0, with index 1, with index 2, and so on and so forth. And the very cool thing about this is that I immediately can put any name on it. So this is what we are using, for example, in React pattern when we have, let's say, use state, which means that we are getting something from state, and immediately we are getting like our property, and we are naming this property, like, for example, title and set title, right? And then we are saying use state, and this thing, we have React here, yes. This thing returns to us array, so with 2 elements, so we know that the first thing in our array will be our property, and the second one is the handler to set it, setter. Okay, so that's it, array. Now, if we want to get more array elements, I already show you how to do this, and the benefit is that we are naming them already how we want them to name, but also here we can rename stuff, because let's imagine that right now I want to get, so I would combine these two. Now I'm going into tiles, but I want to get like the first tile. So how to get the first tile here? I can do this like that, because this is now the array inside, right? And I can get the first element, and the first element is once again the, sorry, for example, here, it's the, so okay, the first thing is that here I don't have any tiles, right? So I can do this really here, but let's get this first banner. I will also want to have a, so this one maybe not. I want to have a title, and I want to get the first tile out of it. So it is possible because we have some tile inside it. And since this is the object, once again, inside this array, I'm using object destructuring. And now I want to get, let's say, href first. So it should work. Let's take a look at this. It is exactly this, right? If I will just adjust this, something, we see that this is this one, right? Now, what if I will want to get a title of this tile here? Then I have some conflict because I already have a const title and here another title. So here I also have possibility to rename immediately this thing to something different. For example, say tile title. And by doing this, I don't have title for the second time. It's rather title. Sorry, it should be tile title, right? So it's it's a different thing. So 2 different variables. Okay, so look at this. I already destructured the object, which is this one. And inside this object, I destructured the array, which is this one. And inside this array, the first element I already destructured. And I can go further and further and further. If something does not exist, like with main banner that we had before, then this thing will have a problem because, you know, I try to destructuring something which doesn't exist here, right? So for this thing, we can also, we very often combine destructuring with functions, which means that let's assume that I want to have something like render banner function here, and this render banner function just console log something for us. Let's say that here I want to put just a banner. I have a type, so already I can do this. And once again, I want to do this inside. And let's say that I want to just console log this, maybe the title. And the second thing will be this first tile title. But now we know that if we will use this function with render banner, with main banner, it will not work. Okay, and also this function should be defined above. So now it will not work because we still cannot read title here of this element. But when we have, so as you can see, I'm using destructuring right now inside my parameters, but I can here also deliver some default values. So for example, for this element, if we don't have any, we can just deliver the empty element. It will not work because we have in our type, we said, okay, it need to have some title and href. So it's against TypeScript types. Let's deliver some empty title and href like this. And then since this is is it href? Yes. Sorry, not like this, but like this. Then this is our default object, and this should already work. So as you can see, this two doesn't work, but here when we are render, it should actually render this two thing, and we don't have any problems anymore. So this should be title, main banner, and it's like first title and nothing, right? Because this is empty. So this is another piece you can use, like default things. You can, I put it here, default value for this level, but we can also, I don't know, put it on this level, like empty array, or maybe array containing something, or maybe here, like the default title, and so on and so forth. Another thing is also, if we will say something like this, it's actually a TypeScript hint right now, but if you are only, if your function render banner like this only with title, so we are not using anything else, I would suggest to actually, maybe you should only pick title from here, because you will now be able to render banner also with object like, sorry, object like this. And it should also work, right? We have like, we narrow our type usage here to only what we need, nothing like broader. But of course, it depends. This function could also evolve in a time which is much more, let's say, probable here, because it's about rendering banner, not only title. So I think it's rather like keeping here banner here actually makes much more sense. Okay, so now the only two more things I want to share with you. The first one is REST parameters. So it's, you can use spread operator also here when you are destructuring. It's for function arguments, but not only, to keep the rest of your properties in one thing. And this is very handy. So for example, if I want to keep the rest of my banners here, so this is the main banner, and this is like the rest banners. And then if we will just logged in, sorry, it was about logging. You see that there are like the rest elements. So this should be two, right? This one and this one. So this is more obvious for arrays, but we can do the same for objects, which means, let's say that I'm gonna take title and rest params from my main banner. So now the title is title, and what's in rest params, it's just the object without the things that I spread or destructor before. So if I will also get, I don't know, maybe ID out of it, then you see that, okay, now it's, I'm not using this one, but ID also disappeared here, right? So the rest param is very handy. We are also using this in a lot of places these days. Whenever you are building a wrapper in, I don't know, Vue or React Word, then very often you are just using the original params of the nested component. You can spread them out, but also when you are creating your prop type, you can use like the original, I don't know, props and something else like my additional one, right? For example, like this. And later in your component, you can say component. You can say, okay, so now my props are like additional and the rest from original, sorry, from props. Let's call this props. And then using the component, like the original component you are wrapping, now I'm showing you this in React Word, you can use, I don't know, your additional for whatever, maybe some additional logic, and then spread the rest like this. And it will just, hand over all of the rest parameters to your nested component. Okay, and the last thing is like a bonus, so maybe something you didn't even heard about. I hope so, to show you something new, because I know that you are a very experienced TypeScript and JavaScript developer. So as you know, we can get something like this. So this is, whenever we are spreading from array, this is like the first element, right? First element. But how to spread the last one? With
Minus.
this? Sorry?
Using minus?
No. Actually, using spreading array, it's not possible, at least as far as I know. But it is possible. Of course, you can, I don't know, reverse this table and get the second one. That's a plenty of options. In normal words, we can do something like, let's say, without destructuring, you can say banners length -1, right? Of course. But if you want to like use a special trick, let's say, and amaze maybe your colleagues, it's like you can use the advantage of the fact that array is also an object, which means that I can actually spread my first element also like this. And now let me log first. As you can see, this is also spreading like the first element of my array. So using this trick and knowing that I can also spread stuff dynamically, because spreading is like creating object. You can also use dynamic values here. I can say something like this. And by having this, I now have also the last element. So that's it, Enrico. This is what I want to share with you. I hope you found at least something in it for you.
I love it. Thank you, Maciej. I love the structuring, and I think it's a great tool to get simple things out. What I want to be very cautious is to make sure that my code remain readable. So the central part where it got more convoluted, it felt like it made the code more complicated to read and consume rather than make it simple. So it's a great tool for experimenting, but I would be very wary of using it in production code and making sure that if I use it in certain place, it's very well segregated and maybe used within a function that clearly says what this function is made to return, or how we want to manipulate certain data and extract property out of it. So that is the thing that was taking space in my mind while you were showing the more complex cases.
Yeah.
Like I would hate to see a code base that is, all destructuring very complex object inside an array, inside another object. But for sure, it's good to know the language provide this feature. We are paid professional, and we are supposed to kind of know this stuff and know when it's the time to use it. So that was great. Thank you. I loved it. And it's always good to have, we know that everything is an object in JavaScript, also null. But it's always good to have a reminder and to see, oh yeah, right. Also an array is an object, and I can kind of manipulate it as it is one. So that was the part that really catch more my attention and refreshed something that I'm not using in my day to day. So thank you for sharing. I think it was an excellent topic.
So I also thank you for mentioning a lot of stuff. Like as you said, it's worth to highlight that the structuring itself is a great tool, but you should always know when to use it, when not to use it. The one use case I really like, and I guess I think it's simplified this, is whenever we are mapping around something, it was always a problem before that with mapping, you use this like mind mapping, which means that let's say that I have elements and then I'm just getting element or whatever. And very often people to just shorten this, say something like E or any letter like L or whatever. And then if this function is going like the mapping function is bigger and bigger, you just forgot what was this mind mapping, why I have like a lot of stuff, sometimes like mapping inside mapping or stuff like this. And then I guess it was way better to be explicit, but when you're explicit and you have like everywhere element dot something is also not very helpful. Especially that sometimes there are items inside items and stuff like this, and as I said, it's very nested. So it's way better to just destructuring this and having this immediately. Like I don't need the whole element, I only need its title. So let's get a title first, and I'm not like puzzled with a lot of constants around or other variables which I have in my scope. It's just much more narrow to what you want to use, and I guess it's a great use case. But there are, of course, others. I agree with you that we shouldn't use it by any force always, which means like we have super nested objects, and we try to, it was only for purpose to show you that what we can do with this actually, but as always, you should decide whether it's worth doing this. Maybe sometimes you should use more steps or whatever, or just create more variables in a separate stuff or arrays or sorry, functions or whatever.
Thank you, my friend. I love it. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
rest of your day.
Great rest of your day as well. Cheers.
Ciao.